everybody. I am back. Um, as you can tell, I look a little different, but I'm wrapped in this blanket because I have a feeling that I might be sick by the end of today. Yeah, woke up with a scratchy throat, and now my skin has the chills. So that's that. Thanks so much to my sister for literally getting me sick and my entire household sick. Thanks so much. But you know what? That's not an excuse to finish our book here. We're almost done. Um, yeah, let's just uh let's just get straight to it. Mm-hmm. We all jumped like we had been goosed, and Vern cried out. He admitted later that he thought just for a second that the voice had come from the dead boy. On the far side, the boggy patch where the woods took up again, masking the butt end of the road, Ace Merrill and Eyeball Chambers stood together, half obscured by pouring gray curtains of rain. They were both wearing red nylon high school jackets, the kind you would buy in the office if you're a regular student, the same kind they give away free to varsity sport players. Their DA haircuts had been plastered back against their skull, and a mixture of rain water and vitalis ran down their cheeks like erased tears. Some, Eyeball said. That's my little brother. Chris was staring at Eyeball with his mouth wide open, his shirt wet, limp, and dark, still tied around his skinny middle. His pack, stained a darker green by the rain, was hanging against his naked shoulder blades. Get away, Rich, he said in a trembling voice. We found him. We got dibs. Frick your dibs. We're gonna report him. No, you're not, I said. I was suddenly furious with them. Um, turning up their way, turning up this way at the last minute. If we'd thought about it, we'd have known something like this was going to happen. But this was one time somehow that the older, bigger kids weren't going to steal it, to take something they wanted as if by divine right, as if their easy way was the right way and the only way. They had come in cars. I think that was what made me the angriest. They had come in cars. There's four of us, Eyeball. You just try. Oh, we'll try. Don't worry, Eyeball said, and the trees shook behind him and Ace. Charlie Hogan and Vernon's brothers, Billy, stepped through them, cursing and wiping water out of their eyes. I felt a lead ball drop into my belly. It grew bigger as Jack Mudgett, Fuzzy Rakowicz, and Vince Desjardins stepped out behind Charlie and Billy. Here we all are, Ace said, grinning. So you just burn, Billy Tessio cried in a terrible, accusing my judgment cometh, and that right early voice had made a pair of dripping fists. You little son of a whore, you was under the porch. Knocker, Vern flinched. Charlie Hogan waxed positively lyrical. You little keyhole pipe paping liquor, bung wipe. I ought to beat the living crap out of you. Yeah? We'll try it, Teddy braved, brayed suddenly. His eyes were crazily alight behind his rain-spotted glasses. Come on, fight ya. Come on, fight ya. For him. Come on, big man. Billy and Charlie didn't need a second invitation. They started forward together, and Vern flinched again, no doubt, visualizing the ghosts of beatings past and beatings yet to come. He flinched, but hung tough. He was with his friends, and we had been through a lot, and we hadn't got here in a couple of cars. But Ace held Billy and Charlie back, simply by touching each of them on the shoulder. Now listen, you guys, Ace said. He spoke patiently, just as if we weren't all standing in a roaring rainstorm. There's more of us than there are of you. We're bigger. We'll give you one chance to just blow away. I don't give a crap where. Just make little a tree. Just make like a tree and leave. Chris's brother giggled, and Fuzzy clapped Ace on the back in appreciation of his great wit. The side Caesar of JD said, "'Cause we're taking him," Ace smiled gently, and you could imagine him smiling that same gentle smile just before breaking his cue over the head of some uneducated punk who had made the terrible mistake of lipping off while Ace was lining up a shot. "If you go, we'll take him. If you stay, we'll beat the piss out of ya and still take him. Besides," he added, trying to gild the thuggery with a little righteousness, "Charlie and Billy found him, so it's their dibs anyway." "They was chicken," Teddy shot back. "Vern told us about it. They were freaking chicken right out of their freaking minds." He screwed his face up into a terrified sniveled parody of Charlie Hogan. "I wish we never boosted that car. I wish we never went out on no back Harlow Road to whack off a piece. Oh, Billy, what are we gonna do? Oh, Billy, I think I just turned my Fruit of Looms into a fudge factory. Oh, Billy." "That's it, Charlie." "That's it," Charlie said, starting forward again. His face was knotted with rage and sullen embarrassment. "Kid, whatever your name is, get ready to reach down on your frickin' throat the next time you need to pick your nose." I looked wildly down at Ray Brower. He started calmly up into the rain, with one eye below us. But above it all, the thunder was still booming steadily, but the rain had begun to slack off. "What do you say, Gordy?" Ace asked. He was holding Charlie lightly by the arm, the way an accomplished trainer would restrain a vicious dog. "You must have at least some of your brother's sense. Tell these guys to back off. I'll let Charlie beat up the Four Eyes El Punko a little bit, and then we all go about our business. What do you say?" He was wrong to mention Denny. I had wanted to reason with him, to point out that Ace knew perfectly well that we had every right to take Billy and Charlie dibs, since Vern had heard them giving said dibs away. I wanted to tell him how Vern and I had almost gotten run down by a freight train on the trestle which spans the Castle River, about Milo Pressman and fearless, if stupid, sidekick Chopper the Wonder Dog, about the bloodsuckers too. I guess all I really wanted to tell him was, "Come on, Ace, fair is fair, you know that." But he had to bring Denny into it, and what I heard coming out of my mouth instead of a sweet reason was my own death warrant. "Suck my fat one, you cheap dim store hood." A's mouth formed a perfect O of surprise. The expression was so unexpectedly prissy that under other circumstances it would have been a laugh riot, a laugh, a laugh riot, so to speak. All of the others on both sides of box stared at me dumbfounded. Then Teddy screamed gleefully, "That's telling I'm Gordy. Oh boy, too cool." I stood numbly, unable to believe it. It was like some crazy understudy had shot on stage at the critical moment and declaimed lines that weren't even in the play. Telling a guy to suck was as bad as you could get without resorting to his mother. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw that Chris had unshouldered his knapsack and was digging into it frantically, but I didn't get it. Not then, anyway. "Okay," Ace said softly. "Let's take him. Don't hurt nobody but the LeChance kid. I'm gonna break both of his freaking arms. I want dead cold." I didn't piss myself the way I had on the railroad trestle, but it must have been because I had nothing inside to let out. He meant it, you see. The years between then and now have changed my mind about a lot of things, but not about that. When Ace said he was going to break both of my arms, he absolutely meant it. They started to walk towards us through the slackling rain. Jackie Mudgett took a switch knife out of his pocket and hit the chrome. 6 inches of steel flicked out, dove gray, in the afternoon half-light. Vern and Teddy dropped suddenly into fighting crouches on either side of me. Teddy did so eagerly. Vern with a desperate, corn grimace on his face. The big kids advanced in a line, their feet splashed through the bog, which was now one big sluggish puddle because of the storm. The body of Ray Brower lay on our feet like a waterlogged barrel. I got ready to fight, and that was when Chris fired the pistol he had hawked out of his old man's dresser. Kablam! God, what a wonderful sound that was, Charlie Hogan. Charlie Hogan jumped right into the air. Ace Merrill, who had been staring straight at me now jerked around and looked at Chris. His mouth made that O again. Eyeballs looked absolutely astounded. Hey, Chris, that's Daddy's, he said. You're gonna get the tar wild out of you. That's nothing to what you'll get, Chris said. His face was horribly pale, and all the life in him seemed to have been sucked upward in his eyes. They blazed out on his face. Gordy was right. You're nothing but a bunch of cheap hoods. Charlie and Billy didn't want their frickin' dibs, and you all know it. We wouldn't have walked way to frick out here if they said they did it. Oh, they did it. They just went someplace and puked the story up and let Ace Merrill do their thinking for them. His voice rose to a scream. But you ain't gonna get him. Do you hear me? Now listen, Ace said. You better put that down before you take your foot off it. You ain't got the sack to shoot a woodchuck. He began to walk forward again, smiling his gentle smile as he came. You just sawed off a pint-sized pissy-ass little runt, and I'm gonna make you eat the frickin' gun. Ace, if you don't stand still, I'm gonna shoot you, I swear to God. You'll go to jail, Ace crooned, not even hesitating. He was still smiling. The others watched him with horrified fascination, much the same way as Teddy and Vern and I were looking at Chris. Ace Merrill was the hardest case for miles around, and I didn't think Chris could bluff him down. And what did that leave? Ace didn't think a 12-year-old punk would actually shoot him. I thought he was wrong. I thought Chris would shoot Ace before he let Ace take his father's pistol away from him. In those few seconds, I was sure there was going to be bad trouble, the worst I'd ever known, killing trouble maybe, and it over, all of it over who got dibs on a dead body. Chris said softly with great regret, where do you want it, Ace? Arm or leg? I can't pick. You pick for me. And Ace stopped. Oh my God. His face sagged, and I saw sudden terror on it. It was Chris's tone rather than his actual words, I think. The real regret that things were going to go from bad to worse if it was bluff. It's still the best I've ever seen. The other big kids were totally convinced. Their faces were squinched up as if someone had just touched a match to a cherry bomb with a short fuse. Ace slowly got control of himself. The muscles on his face tightened again. His lips pressed together, and he stood at Chris the way you'd look at a man who had made a serious business proposition to merge with your company or handle your line of credit to shoot your balls off. It was a waiting, almost curious expression, one that made you know that the terror was either gone or tightly lidded. Ace had recomputed the odds on not getting shot and had decided that they weren't as much in his favor as he had thought. But he was still dangerous, maybe well, more than before. Since then, I thought it was the rawest piece of brinkmanship I've ever seen. Neither of them was bluffing. They both meant business. All right, Ace said softly, speaking to Chris, but I know how you're going to come out of this. No, you don't, Chris said. You little prick, Eyeball said loudly. You're gonna wind up in traction for this? Bite my bag, Chris told him. With an inarticulate sound of rage, Eyeball started to forward, and Chris put a bullet into the water about 10 feet in front of him. It kicked up a splash. Eyeball jumped back, cursing. Okay, now what? Ace asked. Now you guys get into the cars and now you guys get into your cars and bomb on back to Castle Rock. After that, I don't care. But you ain't getting him. He touched Ray Brower lightly, almost reverently, with the toe of one soaping sneaker. You dig me? But we'll get you, Ace said. He started to smile again. Don't you know that? You might not. We'll get you hard, Ace said, smiling. We'll hurt you. I can't believe you don't know that. We'll put you in we'll put you in in the hospital with frickin' ruptures. Sincerely. Oh, why don't you go home and your mother some more? I hear she loves the way you do it. Ace's smile froze. I'll kill you for that. Nobody ranks my mother. I heard your mother, Chris informed him, and Ace began to pale, as his complexion began to approach Chris's own ghastly whiteness, he added, In fact, I heard she throws for jukebox's nickels, I heard. Then the storm came back, viciously all at once. Only this time it was hail instead of rain. Instead of whispering or talking, the woods now seemed alive with Hokey B movie jungle drums. It was the sound of big icy hailstones hawking off the tree trunks. Stinging pebbles began to hit my shoulders. It felt as if some sentient, malevolent force was throwing them. Worse than that, they began to strike Ray Brower's upturned face with an awful splatting sound that reminded us of him again, of his terrible and unending patience. Vern caved in first, with a wailing scream. He fled up the embankment in huge, gangling strides. Teddy held out a minute longer, then ran after Vern, his hands held up over his head. On their side, Vince Desjardins floundered back under some nearby trees, and Fuzzy Brackowicz joined him. But the others stood pat, and Ace began to grin again. Stick with me, Gordy, Chris said in a low, shaky voice. Stick with me, man. I'm right here. Go now, Chris said to Ace, and he was able, by some magic, to get the shakiness out of his voice. He sounded as if he were instructing a stupid infant. We'll get you, Ace said. We're not gonna forget it. If that's what you're thinking, this is big time, baby. That's fine. You go and do you're getting another day. We'll freaking ambush you, Chambers. We'll get out, Chris screamed and leveled the gun. Ace stepped back. He looked at Chris a moment longer, nodded, then turned around. Come on, he said to the others. He looked back over his shoulder at Chris and me once more. Be seeing you. They went back into the screen of trees between the bog and the road. Chris and I stood perfectly still in spite of hail that was welting us, reddening our skins, and piling up around us like summer snow. We stood and listened, and above the crazy calypso sound of hail hitting the tree trunks, we heard two cars Start up. Stay right here, Chris told me, and he started to cross the bog. Chris, I said, panicky. I got to. Stay here. It seemed he was gone for a very long time. I became convinced that either Ace or Eyeball had lurked behind and grabbed him. I stood my ground with nobody but Ray Brower for company and waited for anybody, to come back after a while. Chris did. We did it, he said. They're gone. You sure? Yeah, both cars. He held his hands up over his head, locked together with guns between them, and shook the double fist in a wry championship gesture. Then he dropped them and smiled at me. I think it was the saddest, scariest smile I ever saw. Suck my fat one. Whoever told you you had a fat one, LaChance? Biggest one in 4 counties, I said. I was shaking all over. We looked at each other warmly for a second, then, maybe embarrassed by what we were seeing, looked down together. A nasty thrill of fear shot through me, and the sudden splash, splash, as Chris shifted his feet, let me know that he had seen too. Ray Brower's eyes had gone wide and white, starry and pupilless, like eyes that look out at you from Grecian, Grecian, uh, statuary. It only took a second to understand what had happened, but understanding didn't lessen the horror. His eyes had filled up with the round white hailstones. Now they were melting, and the water ran down his cheeks as if he were weeping for his own gross stick position, a tatty prize to be fought over by two bunches of stupid hick kids. His clothes were also white with hail. He seemed to be lying in his own shroud. "Oh, Gordy, hey," Chris said shakily. "Say, hey, man, what a creep show for him. I don't think he knows. Maybe that was his ghost we heard. Maybe he knew this was gonna happen. What a freaking creep show, I'm sincere." Branches cracked behind us. I weird, sure they had flanked us, but Chris went back to contemplating the body after one short, almost casual glance. It was Vern and Teddy, their jeans soaked black and plastered to their legs, both of them grinning like dogs that have been sucking eggs. "What are we gonna do, man?" Chris asked, and I felt a weird chill steal through me. Maybe he was talking to me, but he was still looking down at the body. "We're gonna take him back, ain't we?" Teddy asked, puzzled. "We're gonna be heroes, ain't that right?" He looked from Chris to me and back to Chris again. Chris looked up as if startled out of a dream. His lip curled. He took big steps toward Teddy, planted both hands on Teddy's chest, and pushed him roughly backwards. Teddy stumbled, pinwheeled his arms for balance, then sat down with a soggy splash. He blinked up as Chris like he blinked up at Chris like a surprised muskrat. Vern was looking warily at Chris as if he feared madness. Perhaps that wasn't far from the mark. Oh my god, y'all. Like, I can't. Hold up. Let me just. Ow. Okay. Oh, how many more chapters? How many more? Okay. "You keep your trap shut," Chris said to Teddy. "Paratroops over the side, my your lousy rubber chicken, you lousy rubber chicken." "It was the hail," Teddy cried out, angry and ashamed. "It wasn't those guys, Chris. I'm a scared of storms. I can't help it. I would have taken all of them out at once, I swear on my mother's name. But I'm scared of storms. I can't help it." He began to cry again, sitting there in the water. "What about you, Chris?" "What about you?" Chris asked of Vern. "Are you scared of storms, too?" Vern shook his head vacuously, still astounded by Chris's rage. "Hey, man, I thought we was all running. You must be a mind reader then, because you ran first." Vern swallowed twice and said nothing. Chris stared at him, his eyes sullen and wild. Then he turned to me, going to build him a litter. "Gordy, if you say so, Chris. Sure, like in Scouts." His voice had begun to climb into a strange, reedy level. "Just like the frickin' Scouts, a litter, poles, and shirts, like the handbook, right, Gordy? Yeah, if you want. But what if those guys, frick those guys," he screamed. "You're all a bunch of chickens. Chris, they all could call the constable to get back at us. He's ours, and we're gonna take him out. Those guys would say anything to get us in Dutch, I told him. My words sounded thin, stupid, sick with the flu, say anything and then lie each other up. You know how people can get other people in trouble telling lies, man? Like with the like with the milk mo. I don't care, he screamed and lunged at me with his fists up. But one of his feet struck Ray Brower's rib cage with a soggy thump, making the body rock. He tripped and fell full length and and I waited for him to get up and maybe punch me in the mouth. But instead he lay where he had fallen, head pointed toward the embankment, arms stretched out over his head like a diver about to execute. In the exact posture Ray Brower had been in what we found him. I looked wildly at Chris's feet to make sure his sneakers were still on. Then he began to cry and scream. His body bucked in the muddy water, splashing it around, fist drumming up and down in it, head twisting from side to side. Um, Teddy and Vern was staring at him agog because nobody had ever seen Chris Chambers cry. After a moment or two, I walked back to the embankment, climbed it, and sat down on one of the rails. Teddy and Vern followed me, and we sat there in the rain, not talking, looking like those three monkeys of virtue they sell in dime stores and those sleazy gift shops that always look like they are tottering on the edge of the bankruptcy. Alrighty, that's it. That's it. That's all. We're almost done. Like we are actually almost done. I'm not sure. I think maybe I could give this like 2 more days ish, and we'll be done. We'll be done this book. Woohoo! All right, guys. I'm gonna go and like sleep. Peace out.